Well, I want to say hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm joined today by some very special friends and beautiful co hosts, Candice, Harper, and Sheila Applegate. Good morning to both of you, ladies.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Wow, what a beginning of the week. A lot of stuff going on around the world. How have your times been over the last few days? Sheila, how about you?
Well, you know what? My partner Zach is now nearly certified for his new technique, somatic healing, and
Wow.
yeah, and he did it on me a few days ago, and I'll tell you, there's been a lot of old things being released for the last couple days and new
Woo.
levels of partnership. So,
Hello.
yeah, so it's been that, and now I'm through it, and I'm excited.
Woo.
That sounds nice,
I
Sheila.
know, right? I just got a little tingle like, hello.
It was
Oh.
much more than I expected when I laid down for that.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. What about you, Katie? How's your few days been since we've been apart?
It's been good. I have missed y'all like crazy, but it's been
Yeah.
really good. Like we've had varying weather, but I've gotten to do some fun things. Like my partner actually is a musician, and we do this thing. You've heard of Porch Fest.
Right,
That's
right.
local. So I got to see him play live, and we've been working on music and stuff a lot. So it's been fantastic. I can't complain. This suburban life that I avoided for 25 years is actually really warming me up, and I love it.
Woo! Well,
Right.
listen. We got a show today to warm everybody up. Um, um, we're going to be talking about class status and relationships today, but I want to kind of set this up with everyone. Why, like the reasons behind why we're doing the show today. Listen, we want your questions, we want your comments. Um, Please just post them right to our live feed when you get a chance, because I think this is going to be a hot one. So, first and foremost, let me kind of set the stage for everyone. Now, for the last few days, the social media world has been on fire, talking about the latest interview between the Griots' Ebony K. Williams, who is a attorney by trade, and TV personality, life coach, and well-known author Iyanla Van Zant. Now, the topic of their interview was on modern women and femininity. But many people's eyebrows rose when Miss Williams brought up factors of class and status as part of the problems women face when trying to find a mate. And so let's listen to this first little clip here.
Do this. Let's get to the logistics, though. Let's get to the logistics. We know that Black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men
Yes.
in 22
Yeah.
of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man, so I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
If
a
he
bus
owns
driver?
the bus, if he owns
No.
it, if he owns the bus,
See, that's a
Iyanla.
problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Woo! Yana don't play.
I love her.
She don't play. Yeah, I laughed too when I first heard that, y'all.
Yeah.
Again, we want everybody's questions, comments, and thoughts. Candy, I know you have a lot to say about
Oh
this.
my
'Cause
goodness, do I ever?
this is your playing field.
Yeah.
What were your first reactions? I mean, like, to hearing, because I'm going to be playing everybody. I'm going to be playing two different clips. That's the first clip that most people know about. And so I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that I set that stage. But
Mhm.
anyway, Candy, what was your first reaction?
Well, I mean, you know, what I do as a relationship coach, first of all, Ebony K. Williams is my ideal client, right? Like she fits the bill
Ah.
100% left, right, and up and down. She's it.
Wow. Ebony, you listening? You listening?
Hot, right? And so when I was listening to this interview, the first thing I thought was, I've had this conversation so many times. And I think the issue is that we are taught, and I myself was taught, to be looking for these status things.
Right.
Symbols, right, that are supposed to be indications of compatibility. And what I love that Ayanla pointed to, without necessarily using the exact same language, is that what we're so worried about is this masculine energy of meeting a checklist of external things. And what we completely miss, especially when we are powerful women getting all our degrees and stuff like that, is that what's most important is not this checklist, not this external list that you can match someone up to, but how they align with your core values.
Right.
So
Right.
when I first heard this, and you know, Ebony jumped in with, if he owns the bus.
Right.
I was like, and not in a wrong making way, because I get why
Right.
she feels that way.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We work so hard to be able to protect and provide for ourselves, all of those things. But what we miss is that protection and provision doesn't come from, you know, the amount in the bank account. It comes from that person's soul, from their heart.
Right.
So if you're not looking for core value alignment above everything else,
Right.
then
Right.
it doesn't matter what job he has, because a bus driver who, like Ayanla said, isn't sitting at, you know, around playing video games otherwise, but actually takes care of himself and has integrity, is going to want to protect and provide for the woman that he's with. And a very, very wealthy man, because he's wealthy, does not mean that he's going to want to protect and provide for you. So I think his likelihood might be, you know, statistically higher, but we are screwing ourselves when we look for those mile markers, because they don't indicate in any way that a person will be right for us.
All right, Sheila, what say you, my friend?
Well, I'm with you, Candice. Yeah, you know, I'm glad that you told everyone, Brian, that you're going to put another clip up, because the first one I listened to was reactionary. The first video I looked to was reactionary and really kind of mixed up and chaotic in the perceptions. To me, it goes to the core, and it's pretty much what Candice is saying too, that we are in a time where our paradigm about relationship is really mixed up, because we have this system that's based on a time when it was created through survival. Like, you needed to procreate, you needed to have somebody, a male and a female, or somebody doing the, you know, the one type of work around the house and the other person doing the other. And that's still embedded in our current understanding of relationships. And so but then we're wanting that romance, and we're wanting the compatibility, the deep intimacy. And like Candice was saying, we really have to stop and look at what our core values are. I mean, is it a business decision or an economic decision, or is this a partner for life that you're exploring?
I love, you know, I'm putting my arms around both of you right now, because, you know, and I put the interview, the entire interview video in our chat, because I really want people to go and watch the entire video. Right. Because there are some really good moments within the video. It's just not all about that one little 2-minute clip that you're seeing out on social media. There's a lot that's there, but it also reflects what both of you are saying, right? where you have this struggle with people combining what are socialized values about class and status and money and material things and spirituality. Because during the interview, Ebony asked about the divinity of women, right? Those kind of things. Well, guess what? Those things aren't compatible with when you're talking about like class and status.
Yeah.
Higher consciousness doesn't even recognize it.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't recognize any of that, right? In fact, it that only comes into play when you are connected spiritually to those higher values and you attract to yourself a mate that can possibly build those things with you while you're living the human experience, right? Yeah, because I saw this disconnect. We were talking about this offline. I saw this disconnect between the question, which was examining a socialized and eco-driven perspective, and the answer that was of higher consciousness and spirituality. So of course, social media, excuse me, social media goes out here and they go, oh, wow, this is great. We have this huge conflict, right? So we're going to blow this up and make each person right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When in true, it's all about, Sheila, I think you just said that, listen, we're evolving. And evolution is messy.
It's really messy.
And it's part of our growth. It's getting to that understanding, right? Like when you're young, you don't know what it is you're supposed to be looking for. You don't know what it is you're supposed to be aligning with. You know what you've been told. Right. And just to use Ebony as an example, and she represents so many women. So I don't want to like just hone in on her. No. But clearly someone who's been told, you know, she's mentioned about having a single mother. I have to protect and provide for myself. I have to be strong. I have to be, you know, all of these things I have to achieve. And she's a beautiful girl too. You can tell she's somebody who's all about that social achievement. And I think that is the journey of life, is understanding that all these things that I've been told are important. Yes. Not so important when it comes to actually having what my soul desires and what I really want to have.
And so to that point, we're not, this is so important. We're not even going to take a break on this first one. We're just going to keep going. You know, I'm Candice, I'm so glad you said that, because one important thing that I want to say to both of those women that were in that interview, Ebony and Iyanla, both of you are fierce. As far as I'm concerned, you both are high achievers. You both need to be in the public eye, talking about different aspects of living amongst men and women. And so I'm glad that you guys are out front and foremost. And there's this thing that we're talking about today, right? And so before I play this next clip, what questions should we be asking?
That's a great question. Can I jump in?
Yeah, come on, Candy.
So now when you say that, what questions should we be asking as far as compatibility with others?
Yeah, what questions should we be asking?
I mean, my whole thing is, it always comes back to core values. I don't necessarily think it's about, being in the question when it comes to your dating process. I do think it's about inquisition, just an energy of inquisition, right? So when things come up I don't understand, I'm questioning. But I think that what it's about is allowing yourself to understand yourself and your source and your, like I said, your core values. It's being in a place of, who am I? So if you want to ask a question, that's the question. And what is my purpose? What am I trying to achieve? What is it that I want to create, right? And if I say to myself, what I want to create is, riches and luxury and all of that, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have an easy life monetarily. I don't think there's anything wrong even with the pursuit of, you want to be wealthy, you want to have stability, you want to have certainty, all of those things. But it's that understanding that all of the external stuff is just tools for that. And the feeling of certainty, stability, the emotions that you want to feel around that, like Ayanla mentions in the interview, and I love that it's like she got on all the points around this. Is the question is, how do I already create and generate these things? Right? How do I create the feelings I want to feel? And what is it that I believe the things that another person can bring are gonna give to me that I'm not allowing myself to have without it? Right. So I want to be somebody who's stable and certain, or I want to be somebody who feels love and feels love freely, and my heart isn't guarded. Well, that's something I already have to be generating. So if there's any question to be asking is, how do I already do that? Right. Before I start trying to ask it from somebody else.
Sheila, what about you?
Well, in the same manner, to me, I think it is everything that you just said, where we have to look at ourselves and know who we are and what we want. One of the key things for me in a partnership is how much do I like and love myself in that situation? So in being in partnership with this person, and it really can go beyond romance, right? Am I my best self? Is this person making me feel good about my, reflecting back to me the qualities that I like and helping me grow in myself, in my journey of evolution, I guess. And we all do. I mean, to me, like, learning to love and expanding my ability to love is my primary source, my primary desire, right? So that's what I'm going to be attracted to. Does this person help me love bigger? And do I like who I am with this person?
Right. Well, let's listen to this second clip, right? Which is the first clip that I played was what I think everybody is really familiar, right? That's the clip that exploded on social media and went viral and everybody was talking about. The second clip is the second half to what Iyanla was saying to Ebony. So let's take a look at that one.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well, I would date a bus driver. But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalance. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and criteria. And it's not working, beloved. It's just not working.
Boom. Boom. She goes on to say that the standards and the perception and the approach that we are using as a society is obsolete.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. Just really quickly, while we have time, I look at this video and I both of you have either met my folks in person or through virtual means. Part of their story is my mother met my father when he was divorced. He was, he would say he was poor, but the last three letters, the O, O, and R, he was leasing because he was that poor. He only owned the P because of his divorce. I mean, my mother got my biological mother got the house and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he got custody of 2 boys, right? And so when my second mother married my father, he was not financially as stable as my second mother was. She also had more education than he did, but she saw in him through their friendship that this was a good man.
Yeah.
And just to fast forward, they switched roles in terms of earnings because my dad was more connected in the school system than she was. So when he got his master's degree, he got triple promoted because he was that well known and that established and that trusted in the position that he held. That allowed her to go full-time in their business, where later on when he retired, they had money so that he could come in, and now they were working full-time. So we're talking about building wealth together based upon the premise of what both of you were saying.
Yeah.
And that is looking beyond the immediate finances of a person and looking at the soul and the person as, you know, being solid in terms of sharing those higher spiritual values, right? So I was just thinking about that.
Well, no, I mean, I think that your parents are just a perfect example of what Iyanla's talking about. And if you notice, as she was describing it, she was talking about core values. She was talking about integrity. She was saying, you know, does he love his mother? And when she says, does he love his mother? It's like, has he done whatever work he needed to do? Or does he have a relationship with his mother where he can connect with a woman?
Yes.
Right. In a way that is not contentious or, you know, with resentments and things like that. So it's like those core value things are going to be the things that ensure, I mean, nothing's for sure, but those are going to be the things that ensure that you can sustain with somebody.
Correct.
Right. And yeah, I think that it sounds like what your second mother, as you call it, which I love that, as opposed to stepmother, your second mother did was look for those things and align with those things and throw the finances, you know, where it needs to be, which is the tool that we use in order to have this union thrive.
Absolutely. Listen, Sheila, I'm going to go to you after this break. Just want to say this really quickly as we're going into break. This concept of connecting with someone based upon those core values is something that is true regardless of your sexual orientation.
Yeah.
Regardless. Yeah. So this isn't just germane to heterosexual relationships.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done the work, or you've met somebody who hasn't done the work, just understand that that's going to come through when you're in when you're in the dating process, or even in a relationship with this person, that stuff is going to come up because it's unresolved. But that doesn't mean that underneath all that, this isn't a person of integrity. So listen, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about class, status, and relationships. Hey there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available
for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life.
Well, welcome back to This Morning with Soulivity. I am joined today by Sheila Applegate and Candice Harper. This is Brian Westley Johnson, and we are talking about class status and relationships based upon a question that in a recent interview on The Griot with Ebony K. Williams, and Yala Van Zandt asked Ebony, would you date a bus driver? I just, woo, she don't, again, Yala don't play. She don't play. She don't play at all. She don't play at all. Sheila, you had some thoughts.
Well, you just shared your story about your parents, and I think that in that you mentioned a couple things that I feel like are important. One thing you mentioned is that they were friends first.
Yeah.
And I think, I even go back to the whole dating as kind of obsolete or barbaric when we approach it as a checklist, like Candice said, she doesn't really encourage that.
Clunk.
Yeah, because, in every other aspect of our life, if we're going to have an intimate relationship with someone, friendship, we just let it happen. And the more we get to know each other, the more we decide if that's somebody that we're going to spend time with and share our innermost secrets with. So when we confine this to this system that we have, it's really, again, coming from the old paradigm, but it can be used, if you look at it as a chance to just get to know people and find out what relationship they would fit into for you. And then the other piece is that knowing yourself that you mentioned. And in knowing yourself and having that inner confidence to see the potential of what's to come and to work together in partnership, because like your parents were creating together, and there's that creative energy, which is actually sexual energy. Or sexual energy is an aspect of creative energy. So you might be creating a family. And at that point, you might be looking at something different when you're creating a work project or something artistic. So it goes back to knowing what you want at that time and feeling the fit for that.
I want to share, how I'm all into factual information and that kind of thing. And I found this one article in the Brookings Institute, which is economic studies on the shortage of marriable, this is in quotes, marriable men in U.S. found only amongst Blacks, the highly educated Brookings Sawhill finds. And there's this one piece that basically says, and I'm just going to read the synopsis of this. When Sawhill and Vinoder, who's the other researcher, examined gender ratios that consider the employment of both men and women, as well as whether there are children from previous relationships as indicators of marriageability, they found no shortage of marriable men in any of their estimates. So again, I look at this, and then amongst, if you're talking amongst same race people like black women and black men, that they say that there are concerns of a shortage of marriable men or black men, but that's due to high rates of incarceration and early death amongst black men. So I look at it like I look at this factual information, and people can put together any types of disparate facts, as Ebony did, like, in big cities, women are making more than men and are more highly educated and da 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 da. But when you look at it from the holistic standpoint, there isn't a shortage.
Yeah.
And so it goes to perception, right? So what is your perception? What are your values? What are you bringing to the table in terms of that when you're looking at possibly entering into a relationship? Because those things start Xing out categories of men or women, depending upon what your persuasion is. And you can't find anybody.
Yeah. I always say when you believe in statistics, you become them.
Woo!
Right? Because
Hello.
if I'm walking around with the belief that there's nobody out there for me, there's nobody out there for me, there's nobody out there for me, that is a prayer.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm speaking word into my life. I'm speaking death into my romantic life. Right. So on an individual level, it's like I can't be in a space of, oh, everybody is out there saying that, these men ain't no good. And there's also the trope that Black women aren't wanted and all of those things. If I don't make those things true for me, they will not be.
Right. Sheila, before I go to you, I saw a picture of Ebony K. Williams with media mogul Byron Allen. Now, the three of us have been around long enough to know, because Ebony's only 40. And we were around long enough to know when Byron Allen was a struggling comedian, right? And so again, this goes to this idea of would an Ebony of back in the day date a Byron Allen?
When he was back in
before he made it, before he created the Allen Group and all that and had this vision, would she have dated him?
Yeah.
I think it comes to what you want at different points in your life.
Absolutely.
She would have been very young back then, but
right.
Definitely young.
Yeah. You guys understand.
I know, but you're looking at different things, and they talked about this on one of the shows or clips we listened to, but you are looking for different things at different points in your life, and maybe your one partner is going to make that throughout all those different phases of your life, or maybe it's going to be multiple partners as you move through different phases. And I also think it's a vibrational, to me, everything is vibration, right? So this is kind of to what you said, but also what Candice said, like, if you're vibrating at a certain level where you're thinking small, your energy is negative, you're going to attract people like that. And they're going to be in your bandwidth. But if you're, so what you do for yourself is what's going to attract the partner.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think that's the flip side of what Ebony was asking. Like, if you yourself are looking for a man that is only conditioned in class status, and in this case, amongst like in heterosexual relationships, men of a certain wealth are looking for the stunner, right? They're looking for the trophy piece. You can't attract a man that's looking for a trophy piece and expect that man to also treat you equitably in the relationship. Those two things are incompatible. They're incompatible.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. What you're setting up is a business transaction.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely.
Too. And that's a lot of it is.
Absolutely.
And here's the thing, if two people, like, I don't know what their personal connection is like, but if two people, if that's what they choose to do, like, this is what we're going to do, we're going to set up a business connection, that's fine. I think what's most important is people understand, am I being dissonant? So if I say what I want is a loving, sustainable relationship, does it behoove me to not be setting up a business transaction, right? If I say what I want is a connection, and I want it to be loving, and I want someone who sees me, because we all want to be seen, whether we want to admit it or not. We want to be seen and accepted and loved. And if I say that's what I want in a romantic partnership, and I don't understand why at this age for myself why anybody would want anything else. Like, if you
Yeah.
can't see me and accept me and love me, and I can't do the same for you, like, like Sheila said, maybe we need to define our relationship as something else.
Right.
But in a
Right.
romantic relationship, if that's what you want, you want to be aware, like, but here I am in this business transaction. That's
Right.
not the same thing as being seen, accepted and loved. And maybe they have that. Like, we don't know what's going on between the two of them, but it does, if I'm somebody looking at that relationship, it behooves me to understand that what is the important thing is being seen, accepted, and loved.
When I listened to that interview, I dare presume that that's what Ebony Williams really wants. She really
Totally.
really wants to be loved,
Totally.
supported,
Yeah.
respected, honored.
Because she wouldn't have been open to Iyanla if she didn't want those things.
Absolutely.
She would have cut her off at every turn, and you could tell that she was dropping her guard and actually taking it in.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think she was setting it up the whole time. Like, I think she was open to learn through the whole interview, and she was showing her where she is, her weaknesses, maybe, so that she could be healed. So, and I think that question was really to show us where a lot of people are, so that Iyanla could go further with it.
Yeah.
And just to honor some of the things that I think that were up underneath some of the questions that Ebony was asking, things around like money, how a couple handles money, how we're going to handle living the daily operations of a partnership and a relationship. All of that needs to be talked through and agreed upon and honored, right? No one wants to be in a relationship where the bills aren't getting paid, or the lights get shut off, or that kind of stuff, right? So you do need to have those conversations. But those conversations need to be born out of what both of you are talking about, of this love, support, integrity, honor, responsibility, accountability, all those things that are those core values that rise above all that, because that's what you want driving the behavior.
Yeah. And that's also what will cause that stability and certainty that I think so many, I say women in particular, because, we have this interview as the example, but, everybody wants that. So what causes that is that ability to be who you are and have the trust that person that you're building with and working with is there for you. And their bank account doesn't indicate that.
Right.
Their treatment of you, their interaction with you, their alignment with you is what indicates that, right? Someone who can say, oh, I see what you're going for. I see what you're trying to create, and I'm on board with it.
Right.
So I'm there for it. I show up in a way that aligns with it. I'm not, ignoring you because I'm a workaholic and I got to make sure I got enough money to make sure you have a Birkin bag. You know what I mean? Like, like we have to get real flat about that and real clear that, those feelings that we want of stability and love, they don't come from anything outside of us.
Question to both of you. How do individuals make this turn, right? If they were socialized to believe and embedded in grounded in this whole thing around materialism as a indicator of who they should be with, what are some of the first things? I know, Candy, you're doing this in your work, and so Sheila, you too. What are some of the steps? What are the first kind of steps? And in addition to coming to see both of you. Candice, you want to take that first?
Sure. I mean, what you make me think of when you ask that question, when I first moved to New York, I lived in New York City for 25 years. And when I first moved there, I was like in my early 20s, I was starting grad school. And first of all, I had everything I knew, I had learned from, obviously my social conditioning, my parents. I had learned everything about what I want, everything about where I was going, what my career was supposed to be. It all came from, how I grew up, which we all do, especially you're in your early 20s, you're so close to that. I ran into a young man on a train on the A train. He was just a busker. He was like, playing his guitar or whatever. We struck up a conversation. And in our conversation, I was just spouting what I had been told, what I knew about Christianity, what I knew about careers, all that stuff. And at one point he said to me, the best thing about when you get on your own is that you get to start forming your own opinions that you don't have to, right? Like he gave me a word that day. I wasn't even ready to hear that. He was like, you get to decide who you are. You don't have to be told by your parents.
Right.
And in that moment, I didn't even know what to do with that. I was like gobsmacked. Like, what do I do with this?
What?
But
what do you mean?
Right. The favor that he did for me is he sent me on a journey of, well, who am I if I'm not believing what I was told to believe?
Right.
Like, who am I if I'm not just going along with what I was told to want? And so that it stuck with me. Obviously, here we are 30 years later. And, it started me on a journey of self-discovery. Like, how do I get to decide what is really important to me? I go back to core values. I can't say the phrase core values enough, because when we get in touch with what is really important to me, like my why am I here? I get to decide that. What is the thing that is going to make me know that I'm fulfilling my reason for coming to this earth? Why did I don this human suit and come here? I got to know that for myself, regardless of who I came through, where I came from, and letting myself go on that journey is that beginning of what is it that I really want to feel and experience, and how can I begin to generate it?
Wow. What about you, Sheila? What's a thought that you have around like how individuals can make this turn?
Well, you know what? Again, I'm going to kind of mimic Candice, but when I had a similar experience. So I met my husband, father of my kids, when I was 17. I started dating him. We went through college together, and then we got married and we had kids. He matched everything that I thought I wanted based on what I had grown up in, and it wasn't that much longer after our marriage, really quickly after, where I really started to find out who I was as a spiritual healer and seer, and my passion to love big and support the world. And so that changed everything in where our relationship went. We're still really beautiful as a family. Like, he makes the best father I could have chosen. We support each other. We will do that forever, but we aren't together anymore because as I found myself, I found a different path of what I needed in partnership. And I think goes back to that key. We have to take that time to find what we want, and then to be aware that if you're going to keep growing, you're going to keep changing, and you can change forms of relationships, or the relationships within the form can change.
Wow. I love this. I love this show today. We're going to have to continue this one in another couple of shows, because it's so deep. There's so much to talk about when it comes to this. I know, Candy, you would love that.
Oh, I would love it.
Right. I was gonna say we could do Relationship Tuesdays, right?
If we did that every show, I would be perfectly happy.
Well, listen, everybody, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have final thoughts from everyone.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning, and I'll go to final thoughts from you, Sheila.
I think I would like to end with a quote from Ilana. The empowerment for a woman is an internal experience that becomes an external expression. And I think if we can, and she said that in that interview, if we can remember that if we're, if we're talking about the women, finding ourselves, knowing ourselves, becoming that divine feminine energy in its power and following our heart, then that external expression will show up in our life and therefore our relationships.
Yeah.
What about you, Candy?
I mean, 100%. Now it's my turn to second Sheila. We're always aligned, absolutely. But there's three things, the power of three, right? So there's three things that I think if someone is, out there in an Ebony K. Williams position right now, or, whether you're a woman of color or whoever you are in this dating journey and trying to really align with someone that you can love sustainably, first it's that clarity about my core values, what's important to me, my, knowing myself, my relationship with self, and then the ability to actively listen to, whether you call it God, universe, source, humanity, actively listen to myself, my heart, like Ayana was talking about, that heart center, that is divine feminine energy, to be able to listen to my heart and to listen to others. Like when you're meeting people and learning people, actively listen to them. We're so quick to judge, what kind of shoes they got on. I'm so busy being distracted about, some social behavior they might have, that sometimes we miss out on both the positive signs of sustainability and the ones that say, no, go a different direction. And then the last one is always be cultivating your peace, right? Like the Yana talks a lot about that controlling masculine energy. That is not peaceful, right? That aggressive energy, there's not peace in that. So we want to release control and catastrophizing and attachment and, sinking our claws into somebody. Like we want to release all of that, cultivate a knowing that if I'm aligned with myself, that person who is for me is also seeking me, and that will flow in its time. Like we have to be able to have that kind of faith to be able to lovingly sustain relationships and to create relationships, whether, like Sheila said, they're romantic or partnerships or whatever.
Right. And wow. Thank you both for that. My final thought is this, and I'm going to channel some Jesse Johnson here, who was just so into practical advice.
Yeah.
In every circumstance, when you're meeting someone new, understand that our natural tendency is fear. This is someone who is new, they are unknown. So the first reaction you're going to have is fear of being hurt. Period. I don't care if you're enlightened or not enlightened, right? And so knowing that, what do you lead with, right, with this person? So when you're meeting and you're talking to this person, that's why it's so important to at least start the process of moving in the direction of cultivating those higher values, because now you can ask questions to that person about what you're fearful of, right? And that can be a deeper conversation where both of you get a chance to get to know each other at an even deeper level, instead of staying grounded in just your fear. Like, okay, well, you got to have a good paying job so that I won't be out on the street, right? Those kinds of things. And there's other examples I can give, but just understand that. Just knowing that will help you out a lot.
I have a coach who gave me a really good thing about that, with the fear thing. So she's like, there's only two, her name's Mika Joseph, but there's only two main emotions, fear or love. And every other emotion is a sub emotion of those.
Right.
So it's that willingness to say, am I in fear or am I in love? Am I behaving from fear? Am I behaving from love? And that willingness to question yourself and ask yourself that can take you out of that fear mode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So really quickly, Sheila, you've got a something beautiful that goes along with all of this. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it just so happens that on May 10th, I will be speaking in a summit for a masterclass. I'll be teaching a masterclass called Soul Love, a New Paradigm of Partnership. And we just put the link up there for you, so you can watch that on YouTube, and then it moves into a platform after that. And then here on Aspire, I have coming up the Matrix of Illumination on the 8th of May. We're going to do some Valentine and celebrate the goddess again with Mary Magdalene. And then on the 13th, I'll be joined with Helena from the Joy Keepers Network, and we're doing a workshop on Aspire that is about infusing joy into your finances.
Fantastic! Wow, we'll put all these great links into the chat so that everybody can kind of get in there. And really quickly, Candice, what are some of the other things you've got going on?
Yeah, so I've got It's Homeostasis. It's Homeostasis, which is my compilation book that I'm working on, Women of Color and Our Stories of Home. If you have a story of home, go to bit.ly/It's Homeostasis, whether low or high vibrational, whether an eviction or a dream home, whatever your story is, growing up, love and relationships, all that stuff. And then I have another thing that's happening on Friday.
Really?
It's called Increase Your Odds. And it's you go to Eventbrite, find Increase Your Odds, increase your online dating success, loving relationships for women of color, which is what I create. I'm going to be doing a weekly Friday, absolutely free, sort of a summit, a conversation about how to increase your dating odds as a woman of color.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't give you that link yet though, Brian, but I'll put it in the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, listen, thank you to both of you. And thanks to all of you for joining us for another great episode of This Morning with Soulivity. Listen, we hope that you come back and join us every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast, or you can join us at 9 a.m. Pacific on Thursdays and Fridays on KMET 1490 a.m. for all of you out on the West Coast. So until next time, keep having real conversations. These conversations are so important for all of us to have. Remember to do it with passion and purpose and create a life full of high quality living today. So until next time, for me, Sheila and Candice, bye. See you next time. I love you guys. Bye.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.